All right, yeah. But you know that no teenagers were harmed in the making of that video, but several adults overheated. Absolutely, we overheated that week. But I want to thank this church for being so generous and allowing us to take so many students to camp. It really is a life-changing experience for them and us as adults. It was a great time, so thank you so much for that, and I think the students had a great time too. So let's give our student ministry a big hand today. So a long time ago, my dad used to direct youth camps at Dry Creek Baptist Camp, and then he got me into going to those youth camps, and then he got me into directing those youth camps, and then him and I would direct those youth camps together. One young man that I would meet at those youth camps who would come every single summer with his youth group, and he would do drama, and he would do skits, his name was Josh Waters. Josh Waters and I hit it off. We became really good friends, and Josh Waters has been a good friend of mine ever since, and that was a long time ago, over 20 years ago. When we first got ready to start the Waters Edge Church, Josh was a youth pastor in DeRidder. Because we had been so close, he was close with myself and close with my brother Ryan and my dad and my family. Josh and Melody decided they wanted to sell their house in DeRidder and move to Lake Charles and pack up everything and help us start the Waters Edge. And so that's what they did. And right before we started the Waters Edge, they sold their home in DeRidder, and Josh Waters gave me a check for $5,000 and said, let's buy our church a sound system so we can start a church. He has been a fundamental part of who we are. He has been a big supporter of who we are. He's been a big part of our mission and our ministry, and he's just been a good friend of mine. He was a great friend of my dad, close to my dad, and I love Josh Waters. And Josh is going to share a word with us today, so y'all give Josh a big hand as he comes to share.
Well, good morning. Uh-oh, what happened to my, there it is. Like, what happened to my book? All right, so this morning I want to talk with you about the power of habits. So about 6 years ago, my wife and I were walking through John Wayne Airport, and I had just got done with this conference that was I had gone to help me write better sermons, to become a better speaker. And so I realized something about myself after that conference. I realized that there were some things I needed to change. I had some bad habits when it came to writing sermons. I had some bad habits when it came to my speaking ability, and I needed to change those habits. And so it just happened that I went to a gift shop right there in the airport, and I ran across this book by a guy by the name of Charles Duhigg, called The Power of Habits. This book was kind of like a godsend for me because it helped me out so much when it came to developing better habits in my life and getting rid of some of the bad habits that I needed to get rid of. Another book that I've studied and that helped me out with writing this sermon was a book by a guy by the name of James Cleary called Atomic Habits. Now, these two books, if you struggle with habits, if maybe you have a habit you want to start and you haven't been able to start it and you think you need that motivation, whatever, I encourage you to go find these two books, The Power of Habits and Atomic Habits. They will help you out significantly. So, how does a habit start? Put that on the screen. This is how it starts. According to these authors, there's this thing called a habit loop. Now, I didn't know how to make it a loop on the screen. I'm not very computer savvy, so this is going to be a habit, whatever, right? But it starts off with a cue or a trigger, right? How many of you have a morning routine? Right? We do the same thing every morning. We all have a morning routine. It starts off with our trigger, right? And what's the trigger for everybody? The alarm clock. You got to wake up first. Okay? You start off with the alarm clock. There's your trigger. Some of you hit that alarm clock 20 times before you finally roll out of bed, and that's your routine. It's become your trigger, and it starts off your morning routine. And then you go to the coffee, right? Everybody has this going on, right? We all have it starts with a trigger, goes to the routine, and ends with the reward. My trigger is the alarm clock. It starts with my routine. I back out of the driveway and end up at work. I have an evening routine. Some of you do the same. You have an evening routine. Every day it's the same thing, right? I work at Northrop Grumman. And so we do something at 4:30 every day. At 4:30 we do this thing called a FOD walk. Now what we do is we line up at the end of this airplane hangar and we walk the bay looking for trash on the floor. And my trigger is the guy who says, let's go. And as soon as he says, let's go, man, I quit thinking. I'm in my routine. Everything from that moment on until I get home, I just do out of habit. It's all part of my routine. And what happens when something messes with your routine? It screws your whole day up, man. It screws everything. It's just like you forget the coffee and you forget to take something else, and now you're just grouchy and in a bad mood. A lot of times my wife will like to mess with my routine, right? She'll tell me, hey, I need you to pick up the kids from karate. And I'm like, okay, I got you. But what happens? He says, let's go. I leave work. I get in my car. I start my drive home. I'm in my routine. I pass up the exit to pick up the kids. I end up halfway home, and I realize, oh, poo. I got to turn around and go get the kids. Habits. We all have them. We all have it. Whether they're good habits, they're bad habits. I love what James Cleary says in his book, Atomic Habits. He says this. Put it on the screen. He says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. We all have goals, don't we? We all have goals in life that we had at a young age, that we wanted to be something. We all have goals to be something in this world, right? You know what I can tell you about you and I? We kind of have something, we all have something in common. When we were young, we wanted to be great at something. We wanted to be passionate at something. We had these ambitions, these goals. You wanted to be a great architect one day. You wanted to make 6 figures one day. You wanted to get a degree one day. You had these goals, but something happened along the way that either helped you succeed. You've ever met somebody who's successful? The chances are they rose to where they were because of the system they had in place. Because of the sacrifices and the habits they put in place. They decided, you know what? I'm going to wake up early every morning, and I'm going to get to work early every morning. You know what? Instead of not just getting to work every morning early, I'm going to stay late. I'll be the last one to leave. They made sure that if they were going to be successful, they had habits in their life to get them there. And vice versa, right? A lot of us are where we're at today. Why? Because a long time ago, we decided to make a small decision that led to another decision and led to doing it again and again, and it became a system. It became part of our routine. It became a habit, and it led you to where you are at today. You know what nobody says? Nobody's goal is in this room? That you don't dream one day, you say, you know what my goal is? I can't wait to have high cholesterol, dangerously high cholesterol. Man, it's my long life ambition. You know what I want to do? I want to gain 10 pounds every year to the point where I can't walk up a flight of stairs, man. Oh, I just can't wait to do that. Nobody says that, right? Nobody says those things. Nobody says, you know what I want to do? I want to be a chain smoker. Nobody says those things. Nobody says, you know, my lifelong ambition, I want to do that. I really want secretly to have lung cancer. Nobody says those things, do we? We don't say, you know what I want to do? I want to be so hooked on this little device right here. And every day that I get home from somebody, I want my family, my friends to feel like they don't even exist. I want them to feel like that I don't even know their names because, man, I love technology. We don't do that, do we? Nobody says, my dream is to be hooked on pain pills. Oh, it's my dream to lose all my money at the casino. It's my dream, oh man, to be hooked on a bottle. I can't wait. You know why? I can't wait to lose all my friends and families because I stole stuff for them just so I can have the addiction. Nobody dreams those things, do we? It's not our goal to end up there and at that place in life. Nobody has those goals. We all have goals of like the American dream of being healthy, wealthy, and wise. We all have goals of living a long and healthy life, but something happens along the way, right, where we made one small decision, and that one small decision turned into another small decision to another small decision, right? You used to have metabolism, and that stopped when you were 30. And so now all of a sudden those decisions you had turn into something that you did not want to have. So, question we have to ask ourselves is who, put that on the screen, who do I want to become? You see, before we can go to the next question, some of us, we have to get back to who we really want to be. You want to be a great spouse, right? You want to be a good dad, a good mom. Oh, man, you want to be a good employee. You want to be a leader. Students just got back from church camp. I guarantee you, most of them, you know what they want? They want to be close to Jesus. They have these goals. They have these ambitions. That's who they want to be. So think about that for a second. You. Who is it you've always wanted to be? Man, you want to be a musician? You wanted to be an artist? You wanted to be an entrepreneur? Who do you want to be? You want to be a person that's seen in the community as someone that is looked up to. So when you figure out who you want to be, we have to ask ourselves another question. You ready for it? What habit do I need to start to become the person I want to be? Man, you want to be a great dad or a great parent, right? And so you know you need to start a certain habit every evening of making sure your kids and your spouse, they feel like you're there. And so you start the habit of, you know what? Every day I'm going to have dinner with my family. We're going to sit at the table every day. I'm going to put away all the cell phone and stuff, and I'm going to make sure my family knows that I love them. I'm going to spend time with them. Because you want to be a great parent. You're going to help out with homework. You're going to do. These are the habits you want to start as a parent. In order to be a good parent, what habits are you going to start? Maybe you want to be a good spouse. Maybe you need to start the habit of every day before you leave the house, you make sure you go and grab the person you love and you give them a nice big hug and you give them some sugar, baby, and you just let them know, give them a nice sloppy wet kiss and say, baby, I love you, have a good day, and you walk out the door. Why do you do those things? Because you want them to know, hey, I love you, I'm thinking about you. And now you've got this habit in your life that is formed, and it's starting to create a better relationship for you, and you kind of become a better spouse. Maybe, just maybe, you should start saying to yourself, I want to make it a habit of telling my spouse, thank you. I'm grateful for you. What you do for me. And man, you just watch what happens next. You're going to be locking the door because good things come when you notice your spouse. So what habits do you want to start? Maybe you want to be a good leader, right? What habit do you need to start? Maybe you need to start reading leadership books. You want to follow Jesus and be close to Jesus. Maybe you have to start the habit of actually talking to him. Maybe the habit of downloading, you want to download an app called YouVersion and maybe start doing a devotion every day. Maybe just reading one scripture. What habit do you need to start to become the person you want to become? We all know who we want to be. The question is will we decide to start the habit and start doing the things we need to do to become that person? So, you've got something in mind. Hopefully you have something in mind of the person you want to become. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to give you some advice on things that I've learned. Number one, put that on the screen. You need to plan the day, plan the time, and plan the location. You want to start jogging. You want to start exercising every day. You want to have a six-pack or buns of steel, man, right? You want to start getting back in shape. And so what do? You know what most people do? They wait for motivation, right? I'm just not motivated. Well, forget that. It's not that you lack motivation. You know what most people lack? They lack clarity. They lack how to do it. So I'm going to give you that today. Here's how you become the person you want to become. So go ahead and put it into action. Maybe tell your spouse or the person, maybe a friend, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'm going to wake up. This is what I had to do. I'm telling you this because what I had to do in my life, I wanted to start feeling better because I was just feeling sluggish all the time. And I had some other personal things that happened in my life. I know you look at me and think, oh man, he doesn't have high cholesterol, but I battle high cholesterol. Sometimes the genetics just suck in your family, right? And so you've got to do things in order to bring those things down. So one of the things I had to do, I had to plan the day. And so that's what I did. I said, every day I go to work, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah, I'll wake up way too early. God's not even up yet, right? And so I wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I start my routine. I plan the time. I plan the day. And I plan the location. I'm either going to go in my living room and pull up a YouTube video on yoga and do some sit-ups and do some push-ups, or I'm going to go jogging across the street in the neighborhood across the street. Plan it. Some of you haven't started doing the things you want to do because you're waiting on motivation. Stop waiting on motivation and go ahead and start it. Tomorrow's Monday morning. You already know the day. Maybe you can start the thing you know you need to start. You want to be a musician. You want to be an artist. Maybe it's time to just go ahead and plan the time. You know what I'm going to do today, tomorrow? Tomorrow, at this time of the day, I'm going to pick up the guitar and I'm going to play for 15 minutes. You want to start reading. You know what I'm going to do tomorrow? At this time of day, I'm going to sit at the kitchen table and I'm going to read at least one page. What is it you want to do? Plan it. Plan the time. Plan the location. What behavior do you want to start? The next thing we have to do is this, put that on the screen, is add it to a routine you already have, right? I wanted to start taking multivitamins, right? And so I knew I had to add it to a routine I already had. I kept forgetting. I went out and bought all these vitamins and stuff like that and said, I'm going to take them. And what did I do? I put them in the pantry, and I pretty much forgot about them. And so I ended up having to add it, and to remember to add it, we're going to go next to that, but I had to add it to something I was already doing. So I added it right after I drink my cup of coffee. Guess what I do now? I take my multivitamins. It took me a while to get that habit going, but it worked. Add it to something you're already doing, which is why some of you are having such a problem with me preaching today. Because, well, guess what happened? I added something that wasn't in your routine. You're used to Tony. And so now you have to deal with me. And so it kind of threw you off your routine. I'm sorry. So, add it to a routine you already have. You know you want to start exercising more, eating healthy. Add it to a routine you already have. Next is this. I need to move faster, okay? He says this. Make it obvious. Back to my multivitamins, right? I kept forgetting. I kept forgetting. So what I did, like the coffee cup thing, instead, I put my medicine, my vitamins in a little pill thing Monday through Sunday, and I put them right by my coffee cup. So that every day, you know what I do? Open the cabinet, and there they are. I make it obvious. Man, you think about it. How many times have you started wanting to eat healthy? So you go out and you buy a bag of apples. When you buy a bag of apples and you say, you know what I'm going to do now? Instead of going to that Snickers bar, that bag of chips, I'm going to eat an apple because the apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? You know? And so you buy those apples, you go home, and what do? You put them in the fridge. You open the fridge, and where do you put them? In the bottom stinking drawer. And you shut the drawer, and there they go. And what happens? You forget. The apples go bad, and you still end up eating Snickers and chips. So what do? You make it obvious. If you want to start eating healthy, if you want to start having a better eating habits, you're going to have to put some things in front of your face. You take the apples and put them in a bowl. Maybe the night before you chop them up and put them in little baggies so that when you open the door, there they are, and you see them on the top shelf where you go to grab your milk every day or something, right in front of your face. For me, look, I used to hate exercising, like hate running, right? But I knew it was something I needed to start doing. So what I started to do was the night before, I take my running shoes and I put them right in front of my face, somewhere that when I wake up, I'm going to see them. And there they are. I get my workout shorts ready or whatever. I put it all right there so that I can see that thing. So I make that obvious. And so it's a lot easier to make that good habit that I want to start. It makes it a lot easier to start it. The next thing you can do is this. Put that on the screen. Is take it one habit at a time. Listen, the good habits that you want to start, let's face it, we normally start it for a second, but we stop. Why? Number one is results, right? It's like, you work out 5 days a week, you get on the scale, and you gain 3 pounds. Man, isn't that great? Screw this. I'm not working out no more. I'm done. I quit. I read my Bible every day this week, but yet you lost your temper. You know what? Bible didn't help my temper none. I'm done reading. It's not helping. But the thing about a habit, it takes time. And if you'll start doing some things and developing good habits, a good system, in time, you'll start to see the results. You remember ever hearing it takes 21 times or 21 days to develop a habit? Have you ever heard that? That's a bunch of right? Scientists now realize this. It takes at least 66 days to 281 days to start a stinking good habit. It takes time to develop the habits that you want to develop. And so you have to stick with it before you can get those six-packs, abs, and all that good things that you want, those buns of steel. You're going to have to stick with the exercising, stick with the eating healthy. Man, if you want to develop good leadership skills, you got to stick with the reading leadership books. You got to stick with those things. You got to stay with it and take it one habit at a time. Don't start with 7. Start with 1. Keep it small. Keep it simple. You want to start this habit? Maybe you want to start reading, right? You make it obvious, and here's what you do. Every day, you put a book you want to read, and you leave it on your pillow, so that when you go home, what do you have to do? You pick up the book. Don't read a chapter. Take it slow. Read a page. You want to start reading your Bible, right? You haven't picked up the Bible in years. It's collecting dust, and you want to start reading it. Put it on your pillow, and every night, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to pick it up. And you either can decide, I'm going to read this thing today, or I'm going to put it to the side. Make it obvious. Make a plan, and take it one step at a time. Now, let me move on further, because there's another question you have to ask yourself. In order to become, put that on the screen, in order to become the person I want to become, what habits do I need to stop? What habits do I need to quit? We all have certain things in our life, right, that we know that have put us to where we are today. Bad habits. You know your habits. I know my habits, and I know the things I needed to quit so that I could become the kind of person I wanted to become. And it's frustrating to have those habits. I love how Paul puts it in Romans. He says this. Put that on the screen. Romans. Oh, there we go. All right. It says this. I do not understand what I do. See, I messed him up in the first service because I got him out of whack, and I have to apologize to the guy running the thing because I tend to go different things. So thank you, and I'm sorry. It says this, I do not understand what I do. You can feel Paul's frustration, right? I don't understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. Don't you feel his pain, man? You know you don't want to do those things. And you know you want to start doing some other things, some things that benefit your life, that'll benefit your future. But you keep going back to those same old habits. Why? Well, Paul, you know how you said you should be transformed by the renewing of your mind? You should take your own advice, Paul. You know what? Because here's what happens. When we start a habit, it gets wired into our brain. It becomes something that is very hard to get rid of. And the only way to get rid of is to work it out, is to change the routine, is to do something different. Your brain has to be rewired, which is why it's important. Now, triggers. Next screen. There we go. To figure out the triggers. Some of us, we have a lot of triggers in our life. Triggers that lead to what? The routine. And the routine leads to the reward. Your trigger, maybe it's a person, maybe it's a place, maybe it's a time, maybe it's a smell. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's when you get stressed out. Maybe it's when you're lonely. Maybe it's when you start to feel depressed. Maybe it's because you're bored. You have a trigger. Some of us, we need to change the trigger. But some of us, we have triggers that we can't change, so we need to change the routine. So we need to change what we're doing. Here's the deal. Whether it's stress or loneliness or depression or being bored, you don't have to run to that bad habit. There is a better routine that you can do to break that bad habit. You just have to figure that out for yourself. What's something better to break my boredom? What's something better that I can do to help with my stress? What's something better that I can do to help with my loneliness? Instead of running to the gallon of ice cream every time you're lonely, maybe you run to something else. I don't know what it is you're struggling with, what bad habits you're struggling with, but we really have to figure out what's triggering those things to help you, make you go on those routines to get that reward. What's triggering you? Some of you, you already know what triggers you. It's called your boss. But you can deal with that in a better way, a healthier way. So, let me move on. Another thing you can do to help break this bad habit, and this one's going to be tough, put that on the screen, is to take ownership of your environment. You are the architect. You're the architect of your day. You're the architect of where you end up. You're the architect, check this out, of who you hang around. Your environment is one of the biggest triggers you're probably going to face throughout your day, right? Because of your environment. It's your environment that decides so much about your day. Did you know that at the ages of about 11 and 12, studies show this, that if you want to listen to parents to this, between 11 and 12, if they have a best friend, I'm talking best friend, like somebody that talk to every day, you have sleepovers with, not just a friend, but a best friend that has a higher IQ than you, by the time you're 15, you will have a higher IQ because you had that kind of friend. Your friendships matter. Your environments matter. I love how they put it in Corinthians, put that on the screen. It says this, don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Some of us in the room today, we've been wanting to stop doing something, but it's been so hard. Why? Because we haven't changed our environment. Years ago, I used to smoke. Not that many years ago, but I used to smoke. And it came to the point in my life that I wanted to quit because I had some personal things that happened. My wife wanted me to quit, and so I made a decision. I'm going to stop this because I don't want in the future something to happen to where my family is without a dad or a spouse. So I said, I'm done. But there was something that was hard for me to do. You see, when I decided to quit, I still had all the same friends. Good friends, godly friends, fun friends, but they smoked. And guess what happened every time I was with them? I was tempted. It was hard. And I had to make a decision. I can't hang out no more as much with these people that I love. Because every time I'm with them, I'm so tempted. You see, you ever look at somebody and say, man, they got such self-control. They're so disciplined. No, it's not that they have self-control or discipline. You know what they're doing? They're not allowing themselves to be put in that tempted situation. They're not allowing themselves to go to that place that brings them to the point where they want to drink. They're not allowing themselves to hang out with that person who kind of encourages them to take those pills. They're not allowing themselves to be in that environment. Environment is key to really turning around most of our bad habits. Do you know that 90% of heroin addicts relapse between a year to 3 years? It's kind of depressing to know that the people we love that get hooked on that, there's not much hope. But there is. You see, during the Vietnam Wars, they were studying all these soldiers who were in Vietnam being triggered by gunfire, being triggered by bombshells. And what did it do? It stressed them out. And they started a routine by taking heroin. Thousands of soldiers in the Vietnam War were taking heroin because of the anxiety and the things that were going on. And when it was over and they came home, here's what happened. 5% of those heroin users relapsed within a year. 12% within 3. You know what they discovered? That 9 out of 10 of the soldiers that came back home dropped heroin forever. Why? Because their environment changed. The neighborhood changed. Some of us today, the only way we're going to break those things that we're doing is to possibly step back from the people and the environment we are around. Parents, the environment you provide at home is very important. to the kind of kid you want to have. Because guess what happens? They're around you. So guess what habits they're going to take on? Yours. Guess how they're going to handle arguments? The same way you do. Guess who they're going to be most likely to be like? You. So if you want them to have good habits, man, you want them to think education is important, maybe you should think education is important and be there with them and help them with the homework. And if you want them to think having a good sleep habit is important, maybe you should have a good sleep habit. Because the atmosphere you create for your babies is either going to benefit their future or help destroy it. It's getting heavy in here, huh? How many of you as adults know that you've already taken on the habits of your parents? So, we have to take ownership of our environment. Next thing is this, is make it difficult. You're addicted to technology, you're addicted to your phone, so guess what you can do? Every day when you get home, you put it in a drawer in your bedroom, so now it's out of sight, out of mind. You want to quit smoking, so you want to do it a little bit at a time, and so now what you do is you leave it in your car in the parking lot. So the only way for you to do it is to go out and get it. Man, you want to quit playing video games so much, so now, how about this? You unplug your TV every time you're done, and if that doesn't work, you unplug your TV and you put it in your closet. Whatever it takes to make the habit you want to stop difficult, that's what is going to help you out with removing it from your life. Make those habits difficult. You want to quit gossiping. Well, you need to get off Facebook. I don't know what it is you want to have in your life that you know you need to stop, but I can promise you, most of us, you need to stop Facebook because it's destroying this world. I know that sucks, but it is. And so you need to get off of that. Make it hard to do. Some of us, we have spending habits. We live paycheck to paycheck. I'm going to hit home. You don't have to. You can have a budget, but you got to get rid of that habit of spending all your money on things you don't really need. Budget, good habit. Credit card, spending a lot. Bad habit. Which would you rather? Some of us, that's all we got to do is start making it hard. Maybe you start talking to a friend to keep you accountable. Maybe your spouse is better at spending money than you, so you give the credit cards to them. Maybe it's you got to let them put a password on your phone so you can't get it unless they let you. Whatever you have to do to make it difficult to do. And the last is this, the final ingredient. Put that on the screen. To some people, it's like, whoa. How is belief going to help me at all? Maybe you're agnostic, maybe you're atheist, and you're like, belief, how's that going to help me out with habits at all? Matter of fact, the guy that wrote the book that I read, he's not even a follower of Christ, but he found something out when he studied people who were in AA. One of the 12 steps, right, is to have that higher power, to believe in that there's a higher power than you. And that what they found out and they didn't like was that the people who believed that there was a higher power out there than themselves, there was someone out there greater than themselves, they were the ones who were most likely to succeed. They were the ones that were most likely to drop that bad habit. And listen, that's the thing about being a Christian, because here's what I know about being a Christian. Here's what I believe about being a Christian. Put that on the screen. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can make it through any battle because I have a God that's made it through all those battles. I can make it through anything because the blood that's flowing through my veins is the same blood, is the power that was given to Jesus to resurrect. I can't even talk right now. The same guy that resurrected from the dead is living in me. I have that strength in me, and you have that strength in you. And so, man, what happens is, man, you start bombshelling on this thing. You just want to go back to it. You hit a brick wall. All of a sudden, the world starts collapsing around you. And what do you want to do? You want to run to that bad habit. But when you have a God that's there for you and something that you believe in, you have something else you can run to help pick you up when you're down, to help pick you up when you're depressed, to help pick you up when you're stressed out. Now I don't have to run back to the bottle. I don't have to run back to the pills. I can say, okay, God, I need you right now because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So this was personal for me. This sermon was personal for me. You see, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your habits. Let me say that again. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your habits. 4 years ago, I lost my brother at 33. Not to some freak accident, but because of the quality of his habits, of his health. This year I lost my dad. Why? Because of the quality of his habits led to a not so quality life. And they were both taken far too early. Some of us today, we're making decisions that are going to take us far too soon. And the quality of your life, not just your life, but your kid's life, your parents' life, it's up to you. So, I changed my habits because I want to be there. 2 questions. How many of you have a habit you know you need to start? How many have one you know you need to quit? Me too. So let's do it together. Let me pray.